You probably can't because of stockholders, right?
I mean, it's legal, right?
It's totally legal.
Okay.
How does that work? Do people get upset at you if you do certain things? There's tobacco and marijuana in there. That's all it is.
It's the one and only Digo Double G.
Familiar with something called the stoned ape theory? No.
Sorry, not.
McKenna he was an ethnobotanist, and he was also a psychedelic adventurer, and he had a theory. And the theory was that what you're talking about, this climate change, that also coincided with the doubling of the human brain size. His theory was that one of the things that was in play was that these apes would experiment with different food sources as they moved into the grasslands. And there was a lot of ungulates in these grasslands, and that psilocybin mushrooms, which we know existed back then, would grow in these grasslands. And that these monkeys, these apes rather, started consuming psilocybin mushrooms, and it led them to be more creative, and it also led to specific traits like the development of language. That eating mushrooms in low doses increases visual acuity, which would lead them to be better hunters or more perceptive. It also leads them to be hornier, which would most likely involve more breeding, more sexual activity, and possibly select the ones that chose the mushrooms would maybe possibly breed more than the ones that didn't choose the mushrooms because they were more into it, they were more social, more sexually active. Think of human evolution. Do you ever stop to think, what are we going to be like a million years from now if we do survive? Have you ever done this sort of thought experiment where you say, okay, if things keep going the same way,
Right.
we used to be very strong and very hairy, and we're getting progressively softer as we don't need to use our bodies as much. Our brains are getting larger, our heads are getting bigger. Do you do that sort of thought experiment to see what we're going to become? And
Not in a systematic scientific way, because the process is so fraught with incredible detail that I think it's hard for anybody, even experts in evolutionary biology, to really tell us anything that will hold water, that's really predictive. But on a general level, yeah. I mean, because people often wonder, why is it that we haven't been visited by aliens, right? This is a thing that comes up whenever you're talking about other life inside the
I was
universe.
going to get to that in a minute with
Yeah,
you.
but the answer to that could be quite straightforward. Nobody out there cares about us because we're so ill-developed. We're so young on the cosmic scene that there's nothing interesting for them to find here on planet Earth. So to me, there's a natural explanation for why there can be other life out there, and yet they don't hang out around planet Earth, just the way we don't hang around an anthill to try to have a conversation with, what's going on inside that particular structure.
I buy that argument the least.
You do? Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're interested in butterflies. Butterflies are so boring. We're interested in moles. We're interested in
interested in
squirrels.
We're interested in them for very specific reasons,
Sure.
right? So typically we're interested either because we want to see the evolutionary development that yields this particular life form, or because there's a general curiosity about how this object is put together. If these other beings are so far beyond us that those kinds of taxonomy questions are no longer of any interest, then hanging around here may not hold anything for them to make the journey and stick around long enough for us to notice.
I don't buy that, again, for two reasons.
Okay.
One, because why would we assume that they're so far beyond us that they wouldn't be interested in these talking monkeys with thermonuclear weapons who dominate an entire planet?
Yeah.
That would be fascinating. If
Right,
we
but
found some planet
Right.
somewhere where people are, the politicians all lie to themselves, everyone gets video through the sky, they fly in metal tubes that hurl over the oceans.
Right.
They pollute the oceans and eat all the fish. Like, these people are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
We've got to go there and check this out. Well, did you like Event Horizon?
Yeah, I did actually. I thought that was
fun,
quite
right?
a cool film. Yeah,
Ridiculous.
I haven't
but-
seen it for
but fun.
years.
I always wanted to ask about their concept of propulsion. That almost like space would be flat, and you would fold space over, and you would intersect those 2 points, and you would be able to travel vast distances instantaneously, right? I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, I'm sure. But is that a concept that people have actually considered?
Yeah, you can in general relativity. So Einstein's, I should say what it is. Einstein's theory of general relativity is our best theory of space and time. And so it really is, as we talked about before, it's you imagine space and time as a sheet. Just imagine it as a thing, sort of literally a sheet, a surface. And all the theory says is that if you put matter and or energy into that, then it curves it and distorts it, and it can stretch it and make it shrink. And so it's the response of space and time to matter and energy. So the simplest version would be the sun. So you put a big spherical ball of stuff in there, and it warps space and time such that the nice straight lines, something just traveling, minding its own business through that warp space, turns into an orbit.
And that's why you can actually
that's-
kind of see things that are behind the sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So light bends around the sun because it's just traveling through the curved space. The Earth goes round the sun because it's just rolling, minding its own business through the curved space. So an example would be, you might say, well, how does curved space, can that give rise to something that looks like a force, which is gravity? So the best analogy I know of is to think of walking around on the surface of the Earth. So if you stand on the equator of the Earth, and you with your friend, and you say, we're going to walk due north. So we're going to set off, let's say we're 1,000 miles apart on the equator, and we're going to walk due north. What's going to happen? So you walk in straight lines. You don't change direction. You don't do any accelerating. But the straight lines are the lines of longitude on the surface of the Earth. So as you go further and further north, you get closer and closer together. And if you carry on to the pole, you bump into each other. But nothing's happened. Right? There's no forces acting. It's just that you're moving on a curved surface. And so you get closer. And that's basically Einstein's theory of general relativity.
You probably can't because stockholders, right?
I mean, it's legal, right?
It's totally legal.
Okay.
How does that work? Do people get upset at you if you do certain things? There's tobacco and marijuana in there. That's all it is.
It's the one and only Digo Double G.